Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe for all the latest Star Trek Picard news and other great sci-fi TV shows. So today I'm going to talk about episode 9 of Picard entitled Et In Arcadia Ego Part 1. We're going to have a look through the trailer of this episode and then we're going to have a look through a sneak peek scene from this episode, break down some of the shots and see what we can learn.
We just came 25 light years in 15 minutes.
I noticed a little turbulence.
We call it Coppelius. I was born there.
Do they hate us?
I really don't think so.
I'm picking up 5 bogeys coming right at us.
All power's gone.
What do we do about it? Brace yourself!
So there's some exciting shots in this trailer, and for starters we have the La Sirena tearing its way through the Borg trans-space conduit on its way to Soji's home world. They're seriously putting the pedal to the metal here, and as Picard says, they've torn through 25 light years in just 15 minutes. So Soji certainly had her foot down. They arrive at Soji's homeworld, which is called Coppelius. One thing I was quite interested in looking at this exterior shot of the facility was these trees out the front. They seem to kind of have like a red wattle or something growing on them. Now, if we have a look at some of the flash images we saw in last week's episode during the Romulan admonition, one of the images that was disturbing these Romulans so much was a shot of a red wattle. So I wonder whether the red wattle that we saw in those images is the same red wattle that is on these trees growing on their colony world. Now next we get a very exciting looking shot of these ships showing up in orbit of the planet out in front of the La Sirena. And speaking of flowers, these ships look very floral in their design. They look really organic. Initially I might have thought they possibly could have been species 8472 from Voyager, the bio ships. But looking at a couple of those designs from shots of those ships from that show, even though they look sort of biological and all that sort of stuff, they are quite different in design. So I sort of discounted the possibility of 8472 in this instance. One thing that I did think was really interesting though, is going back to the last episode where Rios was recounting his story about meeting Jana, who was clearly another one of these Daji Soji style androids. When he talked about Jana being on the Ibn Majid with her ambassador, whose name was Beautiful Flower, these ships look like giant space flowers. They're very, very floral in their design and appearance. I'm kind of wondering whether the reference of Beautiful Flower is a reference to these ships, or are they ships? Are they life forms? They're very biological in appearance. I'm thinking, are these, rather than being vessels or ships in orbit, are they a life form? If the person that appeared with Jana on the Ibn Majid when Rios was first officer called himself Beautiful Flower, then maybe could these beautiful flowers that are showing up in orbit, are these life forms the same ones that Rios has come across before? So we heard in that last episode through Rios' story that Jana and the ambassador Beautiful Flower that was travelling alongside her were assassinated by Captain Vandermeer when he was ordered to do so by Commodore O. If Beautiful Flower is the same as these ships, well, he wouldn't have appeared as a giant flower on board this ship that Rios was on. And I'm thinking, could maybe these big, giant, beautiful flowers in space be the native appearance of the Q continuum? We've never really seen Q before in his natural state, I don't think. He's always appeared as a human to Picard, but we've never kind of seen the Q continuum as to what they really look like. Maybe they're giant space flowers. it's as good a appearance as any, I suppose. I might be wrong, but it just, the reference to flower and then these flowers, it seemed very coincidental. I think we're going to get a bit of a reveal at the end of this episode coming up. And I am definitely smelling the aroma of Q in the air, I think. And it will be very interesting to see how that plays out, because the dynamic between Q and Picard has always been a really entertaining one, if that is in fact the case. I'm just speculating.
We then get a slightly ominous sequence of shots where all the power has been cut to the La Sirena. They're in a blackout. Rios has to put his lighter on so they can see what they're doing, and something distinctly creepy seems to be occurring.
It looks like at the end of this trailer, the La Sirena is in deep trouble. It's on fire. There's a massive fireball engulfing the ship. Picard's screaming, "Brace for impact." It looks like this ship has sustained some pretty heavy damage and is probably going to crash land on Soji's planet. I mean, the ship is completely on fire. I'm really not sure how they're going to come back from this. It looks like it's going to be virtually completely destroyed. So I think Seven won't be the only one that's going to be asking Picard for a new ship. I think Rios might be asking Picard for a new ship as well. So I hope he's got a bit of money in his Chateau Picard Vineyard bank account to fork over the insurance on the La Sirena at the end of this trailer, because it looks like they are in some big trouble. Now next we've got the sneak peek scene, which gives a little look at a scene, probably an early scene I'm guessing, in this coming episode. Let's take a look at some of the images from that and what's discussed, and we'll see what we can learn about that one too.
So the La Sirena is flying through this Borg transwarp conduit really fast, and all of our characters are looking out the front window in absolute amazement at the colossal speeds they're travelling at. The computer on the La Sirena says chronoton field integrity at 90% and holding. They shoot out of the end of the conduit, and they have arrived in the Vate sector, where Rios asks Soji, "We're in the Julian system, the fourth planet," and he asks her, "Is that the one?" Soji nods, and Picard asks Raffi, "Did we beat them?" Raffi says, "Long and short range scanners show no Romulan presence, no ships of any kind." And then she turns to Soji and says, "Nice work, honey. You got us here really damn fast. And I am never going to do that ever again."
Now, episode 9 and 10 are a two-part episode entitled Part 1 and Part 2, but the title of the episode is Et In Arcadia Ego. Well, Nick, what is Et In Arcadia Ego, you might ask? I don't speak Latin. Can you decipher for me? Well, yes, I can. Et In Arcadia Ego is a reference to a 1637 French Baroque painting. It is a pastoral scene with shepherds gathering around a tomb. It translates as, "Even in Arcadia, there is death." In olden times, or whatever, back when this was painted, Arcadia was a euphemism for paradise or utopia. So to translate that even more so, you would say the translation of Et in Arcadia Ego was, "Even in utopia, there is death." Now, whether this is in reference to Utopia Planitia shipyard destruction, or whether this is in reference to utopia being the mantra or the notion of the Federation, always been very upstanding and striving for the betterment of mankind and everything. So I'm wondering, it could have either of those meanings to it, whether it means, even in the Federation there is death, or even in Utopia Planitia there was death there as well. So there's a couple of possible meanings behind this title of this episode. But essentially the sentiment of this phrase was basically a sentiment of irony between the shadow of death and the merriment of utopia. We've certainly got a lot of exciting imagery coming in this episode. I'm looking forward to seeing this facility on the planet. And are we going to see more Daj and Soji style androids there? Are we going to see the pair of Jana androids? Because we know that Jana was the synth that Vandermeer assassinated, that was on board the Ibn Majid with Rios, but surely, because we know these flesh and blood androids are made in pairs, there's still another Daj and Soji style android kicking about somewhere out there. So I wonder whether we're going to see them, or whether we're going to see some other androids that are created in somebody else's image. Maybe there'll be some Datas, maybe there'll be some Maddoxes perhaps. Who knows? I'm sure there'll be some interesting surprises coming up in episode 9. So as always guys, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. What do you think about some of the visuals we saw in this trailer? Do they excite you? What are your thoughts behind these floral ships that are confronting the La Sirena? Let me know your thoughts, what you think. Please like, subscribe, comment on this video, and I will see you very soon for my next review.